Have you ever cried during a movie while everyone else stayed completely calm? Or maybe someone raised their voice at you, and suddenly your eyes filled with tears before you could even stop them? If that sounds familiar, you've probably asked yourself this question at least once. Why do I cry so easily? And maybe even worse, is something wrong with me? For years, society has treated emotional people as weak. People who cry easily are often called dramatic, fragile, unstable, or overly sensitive. But psychology tells a very different story. In fact, crying easily may reveal something surprisingly powerful about the human brain, emotional intelligence, and even childhood experiences. So in this video, we're going to explore the psychology of people who cry easily, why some people tear up faster than others, whether it's a weakness or a hidden strength, and what science says about emotional sensitivity. Because the truth might completely change how you see yourself. First, we need to understand one important thing. Crying is not just an emotional reaction. It's actually a biological process. Humans are the only species known to produce emotional tears. And according to psychologists, crying serves as a form of emotional regulation. When emotions become too intense, the nervous system releases tears to help the body recover from stress. That means crying is not your body failing. It's your body trying to protect you. Research has shown that emotional tears contain stress hormones and chemicals linked to emotional tension. So after crying, many people feel lighter, calmer, or emotionally relieved. In simple words, your brain uses tears as a pressure release valve. But here's where things become interesting. Not everyone cries at the same level. Some people can go years without crying. Others cry during arguments, emotional conversations, sad music, or even small disappointments. Why? Psychologists say one major reason is emotional sensitivity. Highly sensitive people process emotional information more deeply than others. Their brains react more strongly to emotional stimuli. This doesn't mean they are weak. It means their nervous systems are more responsive. Think of it like this. Some people have speakers with low volume. Others have emotional speakers turned all the way up. They feel joy more intensely, pain more intensely, empathy more intensely. And because emotions hit harder, tears appear faster. Studies on highly sensitive individuals show increased activity in brain areas linked to empathy and emotional awareness. So if you cry easily when someone else is hurt, rejected, or suffering, that may actually be a sign that your brain is deeply tuned into emotions. And there's another surprising reason people cry easily. Suppressed emotions. Sometimes people who cry too much are actually people who spent years trying not to cry at all. Many people grow up hearing phrases like, "Stop crying," "Be strong," "Don't be emotional." Especially boys are often taught that crying makes them weak. So instead of expressing emotions naturally, they bury them. But emotions don't disappear just because you ignore them. They accumulate silently inside the nervous system. Eventually, even a small trigger can unlock years of emotional pressure. This is why some people cry over things that seem minor. It's usually not just about the moment itself. It's about everything underneath it. One criticism, one rejection, one emotional conversation can suddenly connect to unresolved feelings from the past. Psychologists often describe tears as emotional overflow. The mind reaches a point where it simply cannot contain everything anymore. And then there's trauma. People who experienced emotional neglect, abandonment, bullying, unstable households, or painful childhood experiences may become emotionally reactive later in life. Their nervous systems learn to stay alert to emotional danger. As a result, emotional situations can trigger stronger reactions, including tears. For some people, crying easily is not attention-seeking at all. It's actually a survival response developed over years. Their brains became highly sensitive to conflict, rejection, disappointment, or emotional tension. And interestingly, people who cry easily are often highly empathetic. They absorb emotions around them almost like emotional sponges. When others are hurting, they feel it deeply. This is why empathetic people sometimes cry while listening to someone else's story. Their brains emotionally simulate the experience. Neuroscientists even discovered something called mirror neurons, which help humans emotionally connect with others. For emotionally sensitive people, this system can become incredibly powerful. They don't just understand emotions intellectually, they physically feel them. Now here's the biggest question. Is crying easily actually a weakness? Psychology says, not necessarily. In many cases, emotionally expressive people are actually more emotionally intelligent. Why? Because they are connected to their internal emotional state instead of suppressing it completely. Emotionally aware people often understand both their own feelings and the feelings of others more deeply. And emotional intelligence is strongly connected to healthier relationships, empathy, communication, and self-awareness. Meanwhile, constantly suppressing emotions can sometimes create bigger problems. Studies have linked chronic emotional suppression with anxiety, stress, depression, emotional numbness, and even physical health issues. So the real problem is not crying. The real problem is when society shames emotional expression. Of course, this doesn't mean uncontrolled emotional reactions are always healthy. If someone cries constantly to the point that daily life becomes difficult, it could be linked to anxiety disorders, unresolved trauma, depression, hormonal imbalance, or emotional burnout. In those cases, professional support can help people understand what their emotions are trying to communicate. Because emotions are messages, not enemies. And perhaps the biggest misunderstanding about emotional people is this. People assume sensitive individuals are mentally fragile, but many emotionally sensitive people are actually incredibly resilient. They survive emotional pain while still remaining compassionate. They continue caring in a world that often rewards emotional numbness. And that takes strength. Real strength is not feeling nothing. Real strength is feeling deeply without becoming cruel. So if you're someone who cries easily, here's what psychology wants you to remember. Your tears do not automatically mean weakness. They may reflect emotional sensitivity, deep empathy, past emotional wounds, or a nervous system that experiences life more intensely than others. The goal is not to become emotionless. The goal is to understand your emotions instead of being controlled by them. Because emotions are part of being human. And sometimes the people who cry the easiest are also the people who care the deepest. So the next time someone says, "You're too sensitive," remember this. Sensitivity is not always a flaw. Sometimes it's the reason humanity still exists. And maybe the ability to feel deeply in an emotionally disconnected world isn't weakness at all. Maybe it's courage.